Now we talked about a lot of cool features and elements inside of Visual Composer and the Visual Composer add-ons. I just want to share with you again some basic understanding. This way you don't get overwhelmed and don't want to, punch your computer screen. So as an example, I'm just going to put something in here, anything. I'm going to put post sliders in there. Now, what I want to share with you, I'm just going to close that out for a second. If there's something exists in there, when you start out, you'll have a couple of choices to begin with. So as an example, if I delete this altogether, this information can't remain blank. So what Visual Composer is going to do and say, welcome to a blank page. You don't have any content yet. So if you look at that, I can simply click here and add a text block. Keep it really simple. I'm just adding a text block, a block of text that I can go and edit from here. So anytime you edit, you're always going to get this pop-up window over here. And then based on these choices, here's my design options. Again, we talked about padding and margin. Here's the width and responsiveness, 1 column, 2 column, 8 columns, 2/3 widths, etc., etc. We're going to talk more about this in detail in a subsequent video. Okay, so I'm going to delete that again. So when you're starting out with nothing in there, again, the choice you have is text block, or I can add an element, or I can choose one of these layouts. Now these layouts again are coming from your template. So the layout you get here is the same information you would get if you went to default templates. But this just keeps you on the page without going off the page. And if I scroll down here for a second, if I want to see more layouts, well, obviously I pick more layouts, and that's when I go into default templates. So this just gives you your basic bread and butter list of information. So here is a description page. So I put a description page on my page, and it comes in as a description page. Okay? So then I can make whatever changes I want to this single element. I do all kinds of cool stuff in here, etc., etc. But of course, if I go and delete this once again, so here is a simple text block followed by other elements that are on the page. The thing I like about the templates in the page is it gets you to think about how to design something to begin with, where to put things. So once again, if you get in the habit of just starting with a page and then tweaking the page to your liking. So as an example, right now this is set up for 2 columns. This is set up for 1 column. So maybe I want to make this 3 columns. So now that's going to give me the space for 3 columns across the page. So I can duplicate that. Now that's going to duplicate the text block itself. So understand the difference. I'm just going to delete that and delete this. Okay, so if I click right here, that's going to duplicate the text block. Okay, if I click right here, this is going to clone the row, so that's going to give you something like this happening. Okay, so if you want to put information in here, I would hit the plus symbol, and then you'd put whatever information you want to put here inside your column through design options, or with a responsiveness, 1 column, 4 columns, etc., etc. Now, the thing that you'd have to pay close attention to is don't crowd up your site. Don't crowd up your site with a bunch of nonsense. Give yourself some breathing room. Make the site inviting. So let's go back. Let's use my favorite technique again. Let's hit the back button, leave the page. And right now we have a build from scratch page. So if you get more comfortable, and if I click right here, this is for custom CSS, which we'll talk about in a later video. So again, this is going to go to front end, but I don't have anything on my page, which is fine. I could still go to my front end, and I could build my front end, so I have a blank page, 100% full width blank page. And I could basically do the same thing. So I can add an element, I can add a text box. So let's use this concept of working with the front page, and it just comes down to what you feel more comfortable doing. I don't want to tell you how to do things, I want to share with you my techniques. So I'm going to go and add a basic text box, and this text box can be, hello world, whatever you want it to be, welcome to think, learn, earn. Of course, I'd probably put that into a fancy box, and we're going to click right here, and we're going to make this heading, and we'll just give this some kind of color. We'll make it this cool little pink color. Selecting would certainly help. And save the changes. And of course I want to put that in the center and save the changes. So inside of this text block, I have different design options, which we talked about earlier: background color, And I'm just going to close that out. So if it makes more sense, again, this can be very overwhelming. But if it makes sense to design your page from physically looking at your page without the backend admin, without all that other stuff happening, if that floats your boat, if that makes more sense, then do it that way. What I would probably do is probably make this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to click right there. I'm going to go, here's my heading. Now keep in mind, this is getting its information from H1, and H1 is set up by the default of the theme. So you'd have to change your CSS, and I will share how to do that in subsequent videos. I can't show everything in one video. And if I click right here, that's going to hide, that's going to show. That's what that's for. I'm going to close that. All right. So let's say I have this set up here. I'm going to just update that. So there's my page. Welcome to Think, Learn, Earn. Great. What do I want to do from here? Well, maybe I want to put a page template in here. In fact, maybe I want to put my product template that I created earlier. Okay. Maybe I want to put an element in here. Okay, so let's put a video player in here for the top. And of course, for video player settings, it's going to ask me create your own video in 10 minutes with Visual Composer. Great. It put its own canned information in there. Well, I didn't really want to do that, but that's what it came in with. And if I click there, it shows me how to use all the stuff from that video. Well, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to delete that. That was interesting that that did that from the front end. All right, so let's click here again, and let's put in a tweet button. Okay, and it tells you how many tweets you have, etc., based on the account that you're logged into. Let's delete that. So what I'm trying to share with you is don't let, and I'll be very frank with you. Okay, I've been using Ultimatum for quite a number of years, and it's not that I shied away from Visual Composer. Certainly didn't. The software doesn't intimidate me, but I got so familiar with working with CSS, and I'm like, why do I want to? Yeah, it's a nice toy, but yeah. But now I start using Visual Composer more and more and more, not because I feel more comfortable with, but I realize, you know what? It's a smart move. I mean, why do I want to futz around with CSS and all that other stuff when I can do things right in Visual Composer and then tweak the CSS from there? Okay, so let's click into here again, and let's do some add-ons. Let's do a just icon. And this is going to put icons. Now, what's really cool about this is I have my different types of icons that I can put in here, and I can just save those changes. And of course, that's just going to put just an icon in there for me. And again, based on these different colors, let's make our icon rather big. Let's make this 200 pixels. Let's change the color to white because we're going to change the background. In fact, let's make the color yellow. And close. So there's my just icon. And let's update that. Okay, so let's go back into here's our column. And we're going to edit our column, and here's our row. And I can show my rows. Okay, so again, this is front end stuff. So I'm going to edit the row. And I'm going to change the background to let's change this to let's go back to the image parallax again. And I'm going to change this to a simple vertical parallax. And I'm going to pick a background image. And I'm going to pick this image again. And I'm going to set that. And I'm going to save the changes. Okay, now once again, part of the reason you can't see this, anybody, Bueller, is because I need to go to my design options and I need to set some kind of padding. So let's set the padding from the top, 250 pixels in the top and 250 pixels in the bottom. So now I have some room to work with. So think, learn, earn. Now if you want to have this, you'd have to have an image that supports the height of this. So let's go back into that again for a second. First of all, let's update the changes. And again, I'm just sharing with you a different technique of how not to be intimidated by all this information. Okay, so I close out of that. Actually, I didn't mean to do that. My mistake on that. Let's open that back up. So sorry about that. I closed the window by mistake. So let's go into the background again. And also let's go into design effects. And I just want to make this more so I can see more of the photo here. So I'm going to change that to something like 400 pixels at the top and 400 pixels at the bottom, and save the changes. So if I close out of this window and I update this, it takes a second to come up, and you'll see more of the photo. Actually, once again, Robert's not paying attention. I can't include this in the background because it's not part of that row. When I inserted it, I forgot that it's not part of the row. So let's do this. Let's go into our background editor. So I think sometimes it's much easier to see things in the background so you're not overwhelmed. Here's my just icon. So I want to take my just icon and I want to move that right underneath this. So let's move it right there. So now it will appear inside of the experience with the background. So I can take this and delete this. You understand? Before I had it in a new row, and the background row is for this row, not that row. So that's why it wasn't affecting it. I update that change. I come up here to preview, and now it's part of the background. Pretty cool. Now again, that icon can be anything you want it to be. It's just a visual thing that you're adding. And again, if I'm going to edit this and edit in Visual Composer, so it's on the front end of my website, and I'm going to go and edit this again, and I'm not a big fan of that particular icon, so let's just pick a different icon. Maybe we want to put, whatever we want to put here. We can actually add a new icon. We can actually add our own icon here. I'm going to do this little funky icon there and save the changes. Not sure what that is, but I'm sure it means something. And update the changes. Okay, so again, I just want you to share with you whatever you feel comfortable doing. If it's easier for you to do things in the back end or a combination of both, but you can do some really cool things. So let's just close these windows down and go back to our original window. Let's Command W, Control W, Control W, Control W. Yeah, see, that's not in there. That was from the previous page. So let's go to All Pages. Let's pick the page from scratch. Let's edit that page. Let's preview that page. And there you go. Now, I noticed that something keeps happening here. And I don't know if it's a little bit buggy with the system, but it keeps going back to my default layout. So I'm going to click that and update the changes. I'm pretty sure I saved that before with that layout, but that's really kind of wonky that it did that. Wonky is a technical word, you know. I'm going to preview changes, and there you go. So just take your time with this. I mean, it's really a lot of fun, and like I explained to you before, if you want to see the experience without the login, then of course you would just hold down the Control key or right-click Macintosh, view page in a new incognito window, say that 5 times fast, and now you can see what it would look like to the average viewer out there. So we're going to do more important things with style sheets and CSS and all kinds of great things using Visual Composer. And of course, all the other information is inside the Ultimatum theme training experience that I will be providing for you, adding new videos in a neighborhood near you. Thank you for being here. I will talk to you soon. Carpe Diem 2015.